Hello, I'm Jana, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be having fun with distress crayons and looking at 4 of my favorite distress crayon techniques. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today is going to be all about distress crayons. This is definitely a fun product, and I don't think it always gets the attention it should, so I think today's a great day to talk about it. So, first things first, distress crayons come in all of our favorite colors of distress. I have been very busily swatching many of my distress products, filling a binder with swatches, so it's very easy to see at a glance what I have and what I am still in need of. So for distress crayons, we've got full set, of course, because of full set syndrome, and we've got so many lovely colors to choose from. Now, one thing to note about distress crayons is that there are 3 additional colors that you will not find in the inks or the oxides. We've got the additional colors of brushed pewter, antique bronze, and tarnished brass. 3 lovely metallic neutrals. Now, while we're speaking of distress crayons, we can't ignore the gorgeous seasonal distress crayons as well. We've got some beautiful metallic mica pearlescent crayons to play with too. And these include Gumdrop, Winterberry, Cocktail Party, Peppermint Stick, Yuletide, Tart Cranberry, Jack-o'-lantern, Mulled Cider, Burning Ember, Unraveled, Harvest Moon, Flickering Candle, Holly Branch, Wicked Elixir, Fresh Balsam, Bubbling Cauldron, Tree Lot, Specimen, Frosty Mint, Merriment, Shiny Bauble, Wonderland, Snow Flurries, Frosted Juniper, Juniper Berry, Phantom Mist, Winter Frost, Fortune Teller, Hocus Pocus, Ominous Twilight, Decayed, Crooked Broomstick, Fallen Acorn, Frozen Fog, Iron Gate, and Empty Tomb. So we have got all sorts of distress crayons to play with today, and we'll be taking a look at both sets. To start, let's take a quick look at what makes distress crayons distress crayons. So, as we mentioned, we've got 2 varieties. We've got the pearlescent and we have our standard distress. So let's go ahead and just put a little of that down onto our paper and just take a look at what they do. So I'm scribbling out some Mermaid Lagoon, and it's right on our cardstock. I'm using a mixed media tag, and as soon as we put it down, it smudges. We get pretty good coverage, which is very nice, and if we want to, we can move it around even more with a little drop of water, and then it's really going to move. So water reactive, very smudgeable, lovely color. Now let's just take a look at the pearlescent one next to it. Again, it lays down beautifully, and we're going to get a very lovely shine. It's smudgeable, easy to move around, and again, if I get a teeny bit of water, it's going to start moving. So those are just some of the basics of distress crayon, and yes, we can blend these. So let me just grab another blue. So if we scribble a bit of prize ribbon next to our Mermaid Lagoon, yes, we can blend these together. So just like that, very easy, lovely blend. So blendable, wettable, and smudgeable. All right, so the first technique that we're going to be looking at is going to involve some collage medium and mixed media cardstock. This is one of my favorite ways to blend out distress crayon, and it makes for very easy blending because when you add collage medium to some cardstock, it acts like a wonderful slip and slide. So we're just going to smush that right down onto our paper and then let it dry, and then we can make a lovely background featuring our distress crayons. Now, if you don't want to go on your fingers, you can absolutely go in with a paintbrush or a sponge. I find fingers are faster, so we're just diving right in. And I'm just trying to push any of the extra collage medium off the cardstock. That way this will dry just a little bit faster. So just kind of squeegeeing that off, but leaving a good layer of glue. And once that's dry, we'll have some fun making a background. And this is one of the techniques I've seen in one of the many Tim Holtz demos, but I think it's a good one to take a look at. After we've done a few techniques, we're going to take them into practical use, like to make a card or a mixed media tag, maybe even both. But it's great to have techniques, and I'm all about techniques, but sometimes you need that little extra creative push when you're going, what do I do with these fantastic backgrounds? And believe me, I love backgrounds, but inspiration is always a good thing as well. So don't worry, we will give you some card making ideas once we have a great stash of backgrounds to play with. So we have our piece of cardstock ready to add some color to. So let's go ahead. We're going to do kind of a cool tone background. I'm just going to pick 4 colors, and we're going to do a little bit of scribbling and see where we end up. I'm going to be using Prize Ribbon, Mermaid Lagoon, Twisted Citron, and Wilted Violet. So we're just going to put this down, just a little bit of a scribble, absolutely no rhyme or reason to where things are going. We're just getting color onto our substrate, and then we are going to be playing. All right, so there's our Wilted Violet. Let's go for some of that Twisted Citron next. And now for some Mermaid Lagoon. Seems good. And last but not least, we've got our Prize Ribbon. So again, just scribbling. Now, if for some reason these are just a little bit dry, I can always dip my finger in water and use that to get the crayon moving. So let's see what I can do with my finger first. And it is going to be a little bit stubborn, so not a big deal. Just dipping a finger in some water, and now we get to blend. And this is definitely the fun part about distress crayons. Once you get them moving, you can definitely get some really interesting effects going. And you don't need a lot of water, just a little bit in order to get the crayon moving. There we go. So we're just going to blend that out, and then we'll take a look at another technique. Ooh, I'm liking how these are moving together really nicely, and I can't believe how little water it takes. Once you put down that collage medium, it just lets everything move around quite freely. Okay, now let's go for some of that Mermaid Lagoon. There. That is just blending in beautifully. Doesn't take a lot, just a little bit of movement. And it's okay if it looks like a total hot mess right now. That is kind of the point, because this is a background, and as they say, backgrounds are in the background. So now let's see about that Twisted Citron. There we go. Again, that's not taking too much to move it. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to get that too mixed in with the purple, otherwise we are going to get some mud, and we do not want mud. There we go. All right. So we are looking pretty good right here. Oops. I lost some of my purple. I'm gonna have to go back, and I started to get mud. But I can wipe that off and add my purple back. There we go. Excellent. That's the nice thing about distress crayons. If for some reason you're lacking a little bit in one area, you can always just go right back in and add more color as needed. There we go. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Now, it still looks like a hot mess, but that's okay because we're probably going to be altering this quite a bit. But we're just going to set this aside, and we're going to come back to this later, and this is probably going to become the base of our main card. All right, next, we're going to continue with some smudging techniques, but we're also going to be doing a little bit of lift. And we're going to give it a little twist for the smudging part. So I have another tag here, and it also has collage medium on it. Now, one of the neat things is it's not just collage medium that's going to act like a slip and slide. We can also put down some distress paint and get similar results, but that's going to give us a bit of a colored background. So I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to add a little bit of paint. We're going to go with a light color. Let's go with some shaded lilac. And a little bit of kitsch, I think. There we go. So we're going to leave some of the areas plain and some of the areas are going to get a little bit of distress paint. Now again, you could totally go in with a brush or fingers. This time I've got a brush. So just dipping my brush, getting it a little damp, and just going to paint a little bit here and there. I want this to be very, very random because we're going to let the stencil do a lot of our work in this case. And I've got a lovely stencil already picked out. So let's just go ahead and spread our paint around and see what happens when we add a layer of distress crayon over the top of this. It's going to be beautiful. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm happy with the shaded lilac. Now I'll just rinse my brush out and we'll go back in for the Kitsch Flamingo. Just making sure that we've got a good layer of paint. Just trying to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Okay. And now for that lovely Kitsch Flamingo. There we go. That's good. And over here. And a little bit over here. And I think I'll add a touch on this side and a little bit down here. Okay, so we're going to let this dry and then we're going to be going over the top with more distress crayon. Our background is now dry, so let's add some other colors over the top. I think I'm going to go for some abandoned coral, and you know, this would be a great time to pull in a couple of our metallic elements. Let's see, maybe some fortune teller and Yuletide. Okay, so let's scribble these down and then do a little bit of lifting. So again, it's going to be pretty haphazard. I can already see I'll definitely need to go in with a bit of water. That's okay. All right, and some Yuletide. Ooh, this already wants to move. That's great. I found that the micas are just a little bit slipperier and tend to want to move a little bit more on their own than the standard distress crayons, which is interesting. So we're just going to blend this out. I'm using different fingers to move the distress crayon around. Now, I'll have to go back in with some water in a bit, but I'll do what I can first, just my fingers. Okay. This is going to be good. And just a little bit of water now. Ooh, it's starting to get really colorful. Cool. So just a little bit more, dabbing that around my finger. Just trying to smudge it out because we're trying to cover up the layer underneath. Okay, almost there. Now, I think that's pretty good. All right, so the next bit we're going to be doing is we're going to be lifting some of this off with a paper towel. The stencil that we're going to be using is THS 036. So we're just going to place this down, and I'm going to bring a damp paper towel in, and we're going to lift parts of this off. and that's going to reveal our background. Now we could definitely do this in multiple layers. I am thinking about doing an initial lift and then maybe scribbling some more crayon down and then doing a second lift over the top of that. So let's worry about our first layer, and then we're going to do a little bit of building. We're going to take a little piece of paper towel, going to give that a good spray, and now I'm going to hold that stencil carefully. We're going to start to lift. So I'm just doing some gentle circular motions, and that is lifting off the crayon. All right, let's go ahead and put this on fast forward while I continue to lift, and then we'll take a look at the reveal. All right, let's take a look. There we go. We've got a pretty good reveal here. That is neat. Now I do want to add in another layer. I want to do maybe some greenery around the edges. And to do that, we're actually going to be going in with another layer of distress paint and then some more crayon over the top of that. So let's go ahead and add that in. Though I do want to give this a quick dry first before going in with that next layer of paint. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of distress paint. I've got some mowed lawn. I'm just putting a little bit off to the side. And I will brush that on, let it dry, and then we'll go in with more crayon. So there we go. This is going to be interesting. I haven't tried doing this many layers before with this technique, but you know what? We're playing, so why not explore? So I'm just going to brush that on, make sure it's nice and thick so we will have good coverage. There we go. And let's do a little bit on this side as well. Okay. Should be good. Great. We'll just give this a moment to dry, and then we will be back to add in some more distress crayon. Our paint's dry, so let's go ahead and scribble in some other colors. I've got some Twisted Citron and squeezed lemonade, and I also thought we could bring in a dash of, no, I want another warm color. Let's see here. Ooh, evergreen brown. All right, so I'm just going to do a little bit of scribbling here. All right, Twisted Citron is next. Okay. And now the squeezed lemonade. Oh, I need one more dark color. Let's go with some Lucky Clover. Okay, so now we're going to go in with another stencil. I'm using a smaller stencil this time. This is THMS 60. And again, we'll just spray our paper towel. And now we're going to carefully lift along here. And this should give us a little bit of texture and kind of a leafy look. Okay. All right, let's lift that. All right, we got some interesting texture going on. Just what I was hoping for. And we'll do something on this side. Need a little bit more water. Okay, that's working better than I thought. Very cool. And let's lift that. See what we get. Okay, let's see. There we go. Excellent. I am pretty happy with that. So we've got a mixed media tag featuring Distress Crayon using a bit of resist. So now we're going to set that aside and take a look at our next technique. Next, we're going to be playing with a 3D background by Sizzix. This is Mechanic, and this is the mini folder. I love altering this one and giving it all sorts of fun grunge elements. Now, the paper that we're using is the Distress White Heavy Stock, and we're going to start by adding some sprays to the background before we alter with Distress Crayons. I'm going to be using some Tree Law and some Frosty Mint. This will give us a good shine and a fairly grungy base to work on. There we go. All right, now we're just going to dry that off, and then we're going to go in with the Distress Crayons to see what we can do to bring back in some of that lovely detail. First things first, I want to bring back in all of that detail, and I'm going to start with some black soot. I'm just going to lightly run this over the top, just trying to catch all the highs of the embossing, and then we will start grunging. So right now I'm just trying to catch the high points, taking my fingers, smudging that out. There we go. Just want to start drawing attention to that lovely, lovely detail. Okay. Pretty good. I love the three-dimensional folders. There's so many different levels here. Lots of detail to play with. Okay. All right, so that's a good start. Now I'm going to go in with some Decayed. I'm going to start highlighting a few areas, and then we'll just keep building until we've got our grunge. So some of this is kind of planned, other bits it's very random. We're just kind of here to build layers and texture and just see what's going to happen. There we go. Now I've got some unraveled as well. Alright, now I'm going to switch back to some of my other colors. Let's see here, I've got some tumbled glass. There we go. It's getting interesting. Let's see here. Let's add a little bit of warm. I've got some brushed corduroy. Okay. All right. So this is looking nice and grungy. Okay. So I'm just going to finish that off with a bit of black soot, and we'll be able to call this background done. I love how the crayon just builds up in areas and we get more of that really great texture. Definitely fun. There we go. Just try and bring all that detail out. I want it to pop as much as it can. There. All right. So we have got our background. which will make a great little accent piece. There, got all sorts of grunge going on here. All right, let's move right along to our final technique. Last thing that we're going to be doing is altering a paper doll, and then we'll dive into two projects. So paper dolls and distress crayons are a wonderful pair together, and we're going to be altering this paper doll. This is from the Halloween set. I love those in particular because we tend to get lots of luminous gowns that we can play with. So we're going to be going in with some lumberjack plaid, and we'll also be using some dried marigold. I might try for a second color, but I'm not sure right now. We'll see how good my paintbrush does. But what I'm doing is I'm scribbling some color off to the side, and then I'm going to grab a paintbrush and we're going to start altering. I will start with the dried marigold first. That's the easiest one. We'll just work on her hands and then her face. Well, it's a little bit darker than I remember. Yeah, it'll work. A little bit more concentrated than I was expecting, but that's easy enough to tone down. There we go. So just carefully moving the color around so that we got a good tint, and then we'll be able to continue altering. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now we're going to want our lumberjack plaid. Yeah, I'm thinking we're just going to go right in. So the nice thing about the crayons is that you can just paint with them, and you can see right away that it just adds a beautiful tint to the paper doll. It doesn't take a whole lot, and if you want it to be darker, you can always go back in and layer up after the crayon has had a moment or two to dry. And drying time really doesn't take that long. I love the tint. It makes me think of old vintagey photos. So I'm just going to brush that on. There we go. Pretty good. And just add a little bit more here. All in all, not bad at all. So what I am going to do is dry this off, and I might darken this up a little bit more. Well, it looks like that we are good. That first layer really darkened up quite nicely. So distress crayons, a wonderful way to make some simple alterations when playing with paper dolls. All right, now let's bring back in our backgrounds, and we're going to make a tag and a card. Okay, let's start with our tag. So for the tag, I'm definitely thinking I want to feature the paper doll that we just did. She is absolutely gorgeous, so those would go good together. Now, I am pulling out some Idea-ology pieces that I haven't used in ages. Honestly, I kind of forgot they were in the stash, so this year has been all about using the stash, so let's dive right in. We've got transparent things, and there are lots of good things in this pack. And I stumbled across this beautiful transparency, and it's got really neat writing on it, and we've got these really cool plants, and it's going to just add to like this garden effect. So I want to add this in here. We're going to grab our tiny attacher, and we'll just carefully line things up. I want that underneath the little circle thing. We'll give it a little staple right there, and one along here. Oh, that didn't quite go in. Let's try that again. There we go. And I just need to do a quick trim along the side so that we can get rid of that overhang. I'm using the tonic snips to do my trimming. Great. Now I can go back with the paper doll. And I'm also thinking, I've got these really neat transparent wings. Why not make her into a garden fairy? That's just fun. And I think I want to pop her up with a bit of foam square. So we're just going to add a bit of glue on the back. Dip a wing in and see how that's going to end up. Something like that, and I guess something like this. Wait, that is upside down. Nope, that is. Okay. Guess we're good. So that's going to be like that, and she's going to go here, but we want foam squares for that. So just reaching back, grabbing a few squares. Oh, one of my wings is running away. There we go. Okay, so we'll just carefully take that off. Then we can put her onto the tag. And then I think I'll add a few more pieces of ephemera to finish this off, as well as a piece of ribbon at the top. So we're just going to take her, place her like that. Oh, that looks really good. We got the garden fairy vibes going. And going to take a bit of Idea-ology. Put that there. Just a couple of bits to give this a collagey look. Cool. And I've got this. I can go along the top. All right. Definitely liking the looks. Now I just need to pick a ribbon and we'll be all set. All right, let's go with that. Oh, I really want a purple. No, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of choices. Oh, I've kind of got, yeah, that works. Got some seam binding. Take that, snip it. All right. We can just thread that through here. There we go. All right, so our tag is complete. That is fun. Got all sorts of distress crayon on here in the background and on our main focal point. So let's turn our attention to the card next. We've got this fantastic background right here. So what I've done so far is the gears that we've grunged with distress crayons. I have matted that on some distress black heavy stock. And we're going to take that, more foam squares, because I am really enjoying my pop of dimension today. We will take that and place that onto our card base. And then we'll do a little bit of building. So just turn that to the side, line this up as best we can. All right, right about here looks good. Great. And let's go in with our paper doll. Got these beautiful roses to overhang. And we've got a couple of bits of ephemera. All right, let's put her down first. Just a bit of glue. Very good. Might need to hold that just a second. Then we can add our flowers. So I'm mixing and matching Idea-ology from Halloween and the main line, because why not? Idea-ology is fun to play with, and a lot of the Halloween stuff really does work well all year long. Okay, And I want this next. I'll have to sneak that into the flowers, but that's okay. Right there. Perfect. And then I've got this little piece. Okay. Now I just need to finish this off with a sentiment. And I'm thinking Dreamer of Dreams would be perfect. All right. There we go, but you know what? I'm going to move that to over here. And we're going to put this across here. Okay. And there we have it. We've got a completed card. Let's take a look at what we have been working on today. Today has been all about distress crayons, and we've been having some mixed media fun. Today we've worked on a smushed background where we've been smudging and moving around our distress crayons. We've done a little bit of lift with crayons. We had some fun grunging up a three-dimensional Sizzix element, and we also got a chance to alter a paper doll featuring distress crayons. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for some creative fun. And until next time, happy crafting!